Hey, so today I'm going to show you how to make stackable 120 boxes for mink or marten. These fit a Belle Isle 120 crate, and they do fit a Duke 120, but you could change the measurements a bit so they fit a little better. I'll show you that in a second. But once you have a couple of templates, which I'll give you the measurements for, these are really simple to put together. And even if you're not moving these boxes around a lot, they take up a lot of space, even if they're stackable, and of course even more if they're not. So stackable boxes, I think, are the way to go if you're doing any sort of traveling with them. And yeah, so we'll get started. So here I got a couple boxes I built for last season. As you can see with the Dukes, so a little bit of a gap up there. You know, a female mink, especially if you had your trap like that, could slip right under. So you could either put some pine boughs or something of the sort, or you could just reduce this piece by maybe half an inch or so. But as for the Belle Isles, they fit great. It's not a whole lot of room for anything to get by. And then other thing I'll show you, so I did make some, I was in such a rush to make them before going up to the trap line. There's some junkier plywood I use and it's already melted to nothing. So, I mean, I'd use any scrap plywood you can, but obviously this stuff was so cheap that, you know, it didn't last one season. So what I do here, and I'll have the measurements at the end of the video, I've got a piece number 1 and a piece number 2, and what I'll end up doing is number 1's on the side, number 2's on top. So the great thing about a project like this is you can get a lot of scrap plywood for free or really cheap. So I was able to pick this up close by for absolutely free. It's 2 feet by 8 feet, so my templates are for 14-inch box, but 12-inch box work fine for marten and mink. I just maybe avoid them for, it's up to you at the end of the day, but for me, I don't want, if I'm trapping somewhere where there's raccoon, I don't want them trying to reach in to get the bait. Not that these traps are meant, a 120 is a great raccoon trap or a legal raccoon trap where I am, but just out of abundance of caution. So anyway, where I'm trapping up north, there's no raccoon or hardly any at all. So I'm doing 12-inch boxes, and that means I can get, you know, a lot more boxes out of this one piece of wood. So basically, the other benefit of these stackable boxes is I'm able to, because they're tapered like that, I can actually get more boxes out of this plank of plywood. So, and of course, so I've just gone along and taken my number 1 template and gone like this, traced, turned it around, traced, turned it around, traced, and then obviously the number 2 template takes up more room, but I've gone along and made sure that I've got the same amount of number 1s as number 2s. So I've got 14 2s and 14 1s. So I'll be able to get 7 boxes out of this sheet of plywood. So next I'm going to take a skill saw and I'm going to cut it all up. Obviously the skill saw isn't the most precise, but it's what is easiest for me to use at this moment. And you know, they don't have to be absolutely perfect. As long as they're made of good wood and are solid. The marten won't mind, the mink don't mind. Okay, so I've got 2 of our number 1 pieces and 2 of our number 2 pieces cut out, and I've got some screws here, 2-inch screws. You can use a staple gun, like compressed air. The horseshoe, the sort of U-shaped staples work. The single nails out of a nail gun tend to be a little too light. You know, I've had bears come along and just knock these straight out of the tree and they've held together, but they need to be a bit sturdy at least, and you want these to last a few years. So Anyway, so I just try and get one screw in, and then once you do that, they sort of come together pretty easy. If you have someone there to help you or some clamps, that's certainly good help. But anyway, first one's a little tricky, but once you get them in, I do 3 on each side, and I'll be back with the box completed. Okay, so here's our 4 pieces screwed together. So we're gonna cut the notches in here, and we still need to put screen on the back side. So, but with our measurements, we basically end up with a perfect square on the inside and outside. I do like to keep, if I'm doing the notches on the piece we labeled number 1, I'll do that with all my boxes. They still tend to fit just a little nicer if you do them all, whether you pick the wider side or not, they fit a little nicer. Okay, so I'm doing my notches about 2 inches back and 3.5 inches off the bottom of the box. That's how I like my the notches to be oriented for the way I do the springs. You could just go halfway though. So I'm gonna mark it out on both sides. For a lot of people, you might find it a lot easier if you have a power saw or sawzall to cut these notches before you screw it all together. But I'm just gonna take a handsaw, cut into here on both sides, cut straight back, and then I have a D-shaped saw that I'll show you where I can just easily cut out the notches. It's not the best way to do it, but if you don't have some of that equipment, I have sawed back here and it's still attached here, and I've just knocked it out with a hammer and a chisel or something along the lines of that. Okay, so I've got this D-shaped saw with the blade that you can orient it any way you need. So start in here. There's one notch, and now on to the other side. So I just wanted to show you before we get the screen on the back, the reason I cut those notches so low is because I like the springs facing down. My trapping mentor taught me that, if you've got your springs upwards with tension to hold that trap in place, if a fisher or marten goes crawling, puts his paw on an upward facing spring, he's gonna loosen that trap. So I like to have the notches low, and low enough that when I do push those springs down, the top of the trap isn't risk of not firing by having the dog of that Conibear pressed up against the top of that box. So next we'll get the screen on the back. So what I wanted to show here is I've got 2 methods of securing some fencing wire to the back of the boxes. So this is a 160 or 220 box, which I'm gonna definitely do some videos on in the future, how to make those. And I've got 14 gauge wire to secure. I've drilled a hole in 4 spots in this box just to secure the fencing wire. This is 1 inch by 1 inch, made out of an old rusty colony trap, so that's a good use for that. And then over here on this 120 box, same type of wire. You could also use hardware cloth, I'm sure, and I've got fence staples in it. So you wouldn't want to use a hand stapler. A fisher or a raccoon could easily pull that wire right off and get your bait from the other end. But this is 2 good methods, especially this one if you're using thinner plywood. Hey, thanks a lot for watching. This is my first video going up on YouTube, so I hope in the future they're a little more polished up. I'm a little less nervous about it. And I hope these stackable 120 boxes help you out a lot on your line, whether it's long or short line. These really have come in handy to me. So I've got a lot more videos coming shortly, and I'd love it if you'd subscribe. It'd make my day. And if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. I'll be quick to respond. And thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.